Reading books, writing books. Reading and writing come together in a dual language classroom from Equity and Diversity book. All right, to start us out, I'm going to pose this question to you, and then I want to talk about the little story that starts this chapter out. First is, how can you help children in your classroom develop reading and writing skills in concert with each other? So I want you to think about that. And in this book, it starts us out with Miss Neon's dual language preschool classroom of 3, 4, and 5-year-olds that speak English and Spanish, and they are creating some books. And the books are around a variety of different topics, some Transformers and others about their family. Some books are just a collection of words. They might have scribbles or pictures. Even books that look like, quote unquote, just scribbles, they convey a message of the young authors, what they want to share with each other. And in the classroom, the children read books and make books in multiple ways and languages. So, things that I really want you to understand is when children create books, they are telling us that words are meaningful and purposeful. They're telling us their concept of the world and how they understand it. And understanding that print can be used in an array of ways. Books are one of those things that you can enjoy by yourself or you can share with someone else. But these child-created books, regardless of the language they are written in, are all about the topics relevant to the authors and cover the broad spectrum of children's home lives, school lives, and popular cultural interests that bridge the two. Writing and reading are interconnected. They are a process that, although sometimes are taught separately, they really are something that goes hand in hand. We know the more that children are around literacy, reading, parents, family members reading to children, us as educators reading to children, we know the benefits from that. And the vocabulary that they get from reading, which then transfers to wanting to learn how to write those words. I work with children, and when they've made their book or during their book, they want to know how to spell something. They don't know how to spell it. So then I get to work with them with that opportunity. Sometimes it's simple as their name, just understanding that, and they knew that they had to put their name on there, and sometimes it's words. But it's important to teach print concepts, and that's an awesome opportunity for us to do that. So as they make their books, we can help them with writing, teaching the literacy part, the writing part of it, and therefore flips to being able to read. Early childhood teachers capitalize on this connection between reading and writing all the time. Teachers assess children's progress in understanding print by observing and by inviting them to come in to read a book. So often, at our school, we have lots of libraries around every classroom. We have books all over, and always inviting children to read books with us, or children are asking us to read books with them. We're providing those experiences for them so that we can sit down and just either enjoy a good book, or we can ask questions about it. We can have them hold the book and turn the pages, or just turn the pages, point to the pictures, have a conversation about what they see in the book. Often children will say, I can't read. And I flip that around and say, yes, you can. Tell me what's going on in these pictures. And then they're telling me, well, there's a horse, or there's a cat, or there's a boy, or there's, something going on in the pictures. And I'm like, you're reading. You're reading. I celebrate that with them. And that is teaching those print concepts. And we have to do that with our family as well, because a lot of times our families are expecting their children to be actually reading the words. But we need to educate them and let them know that as a child is even writing a book that looks like it only has scribbles in it, that's pre-literacy. When they talk about the images in books, That's pre-literacy. And that all of those build up to writing and reading fluently. And we know how important that is for children, and especially when they're dual language learners. Literacy puts them on the same footing. When they write their own books, they're authors. And sharing those experiences with each other is so meaningful. There are story of 3, and the first one is Manuel. Age 5, speaks Spanish, is learning English and enjoys attending half-day preschool program, lives in a major urban city that is low income. He has access to books at school, little access to books at home due to the family's income. He shows a natural curiosity for learning and understanding that books can be tools to help him learn about the world. Most of the meaning is conveyed through drawings rather than letters or words for him. Manuel is deliberate with his drawings and marks, and when asked about these markings, he will tell you that the book is about Transformers. He does not differentiate between print and the pictures on the page, nor does he write words other than his name. He knows that his book is about, he knows what it's about, but does not give it a title. Manuel's writing awareness is still in the early stages. His limited oral storytelling ability in both languages is reflected in his writing ability. Something could be done by offering him more meaningful opportunities in both reading and writing, and encouraging him to create his own Transformer stories will continue to strengthen his literacy skills. That's Manuel. The second story is of Anita. She is 5.5-year-old, urban area with low income. She loves to talk and read in her home language, but she does not yet know many English words. New to the United States, having arrived 3 months earlier, access to books is limited. A strong awareness of print concepts while reading. Although Anita has good concepts about print knowledge with books, this does not transfer to her writing. The researchers observe Anita's writing ability by encouraging her to make her own book. She is unfamiliar with how to create the front and the back of the book, and she skips pages. Although Anita can articulate the meaning of her drawings, she is in the very early development of print awareness when it comes to writing. She uses drawing to represent her ideas and relies on her oral language to explain and express her story. Anita's growing motivation to communicate her written message more clearly can propel her acquisition of writing skills, which will benefit both reading and writing. That is Anita. And then the third and final is Sophia. She's a 5-year-old, speaks Spanish as her first language, is beginning to learn how to speak English from an urban area, and comes from a family of migrant workers. Her ability in reading and writing indicate her readiness for it. Sophia shows little familiarity with books, print, and their purposes. Sophia holds books properly but does not turn pages and is unable to point to the title, a letter, or word. Writing a book about her family in Spanish, Sophia turns the pages correctly, verbally tells Joanna the title of her story. From left to right, she draws a picture of her family, then writes her family name, indicating that she knows the difference between pictures and print, and that it is the print that carries much of the meaning. Sophia exhibits a sophisticated sense of self-monitoring. Sophia's literacy skills not only illustrate the importance of using both reading and writing when developing individual literacy profiles, but also by observing children's use of these skills in their home language is critical. Here is the key point for Sophia. Sophia knows much more about print than when Joanna looks only at how she reads the books. Use of both languages demonstrates when children are allowed to use their home language in classrooms, they can express more complex thinking and more sophisticated skills than if they are permitted to only use their second language. I want to make a connection back to what we talked about with migrant workers and the African American achievement gap. When we talked about those, we did talk about letting children speak their languages in school and allowing them to be who they want to be in school. And this is a good point to that, is that when we allow them to do what they are comfortable with in the language that they are comfortable with, we can see far more information about that child. We can learn a lot more about a child. Implications for the classroom. A supportive environment and interactions can help children learn to read and write. If they see this coming from teachers, if we're modeling it, they're going to model that as well. Teaching reading and writing in tandem. Reading out loud to children can be a profound effect on their knowledge about writing and how their writing can inform audiences. And I would also add that it's important to make sure that you are reading an array of topics and formats and styles to children. Poetry, even books that have multiple chapters and picture books, and this goes on and on. Make sure that you are reading a variety to children so they can hear the tone, they can hear the cadence of what a good book sounds like when you're reading it. When children have opportunities to listen to a variety of text read out loud, they become familiar with different text structures. The more children read or listen to books read out loud, the better they are prepared to write. Support children by making reading and writing part of their daily instruction, reading out loud and writing in front of the children, and honoring the reading and writing process children use as they emerge into literacy. I have several times had a child read their book that they created during my small group or at large group. They put so much effort into it and they want to share that. They want to give that gift to others. And so giving them that opportunity to be able to share that with others. We should encourage children to write about topics that interest them as well. When preschoolers are immersed in the engaging act of listening to and imagining elaborate stories, they can create their own stories that help them understand the role of characters, setting, and simple plots. Share your writing with children or conduct sharing writing examples with them. They don't need to be told what to write. They don't need to be lectured on what a character is. They don't need to be lectured on settings and plots. You can use those words in context as you are talking about books or as they are reading their story. You could be asking them, oh, I wonder who the main character is. And obviously they might not know what that is, but that's an opportunity to get that in so they can hear what that is. Oh, main character is the person or animal or thing in your story that carries throughout the story, that has the importance behind it, right? So we can bring that to the children. Bridging reading and writing by making books. Honestly, making books is a perfect opportunity to connect reading and writing. Making space available for them to do this. Maybe already having some papers already folded into books so they can even learn that much. Children need to see themselves as authors. They must be authors. Thinking and writing and publishing process becomes a natural experience for children. Again, they want to share. So that's the part of the publishing. I had a small group at one time that wrote a whole story together about a maple tree that we would go and hang out at. It was just right across from our school, and we would take books and we'd go read books under the maple tree, and that maple tree became part of our small group. And the children wanted to include that maple tree in a story. And they wrote it and illustrated it. And we had a signing party with the parents. They came and we read the book out loud to them. And we all just gathered by that maple tree, which was part of our group of who we are. When they wanted to write that story about that maple tree, that told me how much that tree meant to our small group. That tree was another component, or as if it was another child in our small group. So they wanted to make that, it was important to them, and make that book about that. Thinking, writing, and publishing process becomes natural, and that's what the children did. Dual language learners who have benefit of knowing and communicating in 2 languages can bring their own rich knowledge of words into the environment, and we all can learn from them. It is important that teachers ensure that DLL, dual language learners, writers, are part of a supportive classroom community that recognizes their varied experience and allows them to take risks. Boy, that's a pretty big thing to mention there about children taking risks. When they're making these books, they're taking a risk as it is. But then the dual language learners are taking even greater risk on that. Support that, celebrate it, and encourage it. Teach lessons that honor and support and value the dual language learner's home language. Make sure you have books in your classroom that are stocked with them so that they can feel comfortable, that they feel like this is part of their schooling and that we value that. In conclusion, wrapping up this chapter, practice shares. We need to make sure all settings can incorporate bookmarking making centers. Whether dual language learners or monolingual preschoolers develop literacy skills in similar ways, we need to make sure that there is a variety for children. Dual language learners are functioning in 2 languages and may take a little longer to demonstrate the same skills as a monolanguage child. So be patient with them. Include their families. Bring them in. Again, families want to be part of their children's experience in school. So perhaps you can send pictures home of that book to their family, and they can help maybe translate it for us so that when the child comes back the next day, you know what they're writing and what they're talking about, especially for those immigrant families that have just come from another country here, and English is not even something that they're able to speak yet. It's important to make sure that we understand that it's going to take longer for them in their second language. Provide many opportunities to interact and with interesting and meaningful reading and writing activities. Observe children read and make books, and it gives us insight, and it gives themselves insight, and it builds their pride in internal dialogue that says, I am capable and competent, and look at me, I am an author. So make sure you celebrate that as well. Put those books around the classroom so that other children can read other children's work. So again, I pose that question to you. How can you help children in your classroom develop reading and writing skills?